My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And we are continuing our study of the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15 through the prism of the doctrine of the new creation, the new heaven and the new earth, the new Jerusalem. I've been sharing with you thoughts based upon Isaiah 65, since it is paradigmatic for understanding the doctrine of the new creation in the New Testament. After all, the New Testament writers tell us that what they were teaching, what they were anticipating, what they were looking for was the fulfillment of those Old Covenant prophets. You know, I saw someone suggest the other day that we cannot use the Old Testament prophets as a guideline for understanding the New Testament prophecies. Well, that's strange, since Paul said his doctrine was nothing but what Moses and the prophets said was about to happen. That's strange, since Peter said that the new creation, i.e. the restoration of all things, that would be consummated at the parousia of Christ, would be the fulfillment of all of the prophets who have ever spoken. Moses, Samuel, and all of the prophets who have ever spoken. Now, did the New Testament prophets demonstrate that the meaning of the Old Testament prophecies was so very, very often, and in the majority of cases actually, to be fulfilled spiritually and not literally? Absolutely they did. They even inform us, according to 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 10 to 12, that the Old Testament prophets did not fully understand the things which they predicted or the time of their fulfillment. But the time had arrived in the first century, and those things foretold by the Old Testament prophecies were being fulfilled, how? Spiritually in Christ. Now that ought to raise a question for us. If in the huge majority of cases, are there exceptions? Yes. But in the huge majority of cases, the Old Testament gives us predictions that if we take them literally, then people would say, well, it's never been fulfilled. For instance, the Old Testament predicted the building of the Messianic temple. Where have we seen a literal physical Messianic temple? Well, we haven't, but Jesus Christ is the living chief cornerstone of the Messianic temple. Well, how does that work? He's the spiritual stone. Well, here's my point. Those who try to take the new heaven and the new earth and the new Jerusalem as literal, physical creation are overlooking the fact that the New Testament writers applied those prophecies spiritually of the new creation in Christ. If any man is in Christ, he is new creation. Well, he's not a literal, physical, new biological body, and no, never will be. Okay, all of that said, that leads us to a question. How do we view the prediction of Isaiah chapter 65 when it talks about there be kids being born in the new creation? And then Jesus saying in Luke chapter 20, in the age to come, there's no marrying or giving in marriage. Oh my goodness. Is there a contradiction? No. No contradiction at all. Not if we understand, once again, the proper hermeneutic. Now, what did Jesus mean when he said in the age to come there's neither marrying or giving in marriage? Well, his answer was directly in response to the Sadducean challenge that said, Master, a man had a wife. He died without bearing children. His brother married her, but died bearing no children. And that happened with 7 brothers, no offspring. So in the age to come, in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? Now you see, the Sadducees were approaching the entire question from a totally presuppositional perspective. They were thinking conjugal relations, but not just conjugal relations. They were thinking conjugal relations in the age to come in obedience to the law of Moses. Deuteronomy chapter 25 and what's called the Levirate marriage. The Levirate marriage, if you please. They were assuming that in the age to come, the law of Moses was still in effect. Well, the law of Moses demanded if a man's married, but he dies without bringing forth children to receive inheritance, that there is no inheritance. If a man died without bearing children, his name ceased to exist. He passed off the records. He produced no sons of God. But you see, that was all under Torah. And Jesus says, in the age to come, they neither marry nor are giving in marriage. What's he saying? They don't practice the Levirate marriage in the age to come. They do not get married to produce sons of God. Are children going to be born? Yes. Are they going to be, is marriage going to be practiced for the purpose of producing sons of God? You see, sons of God were born by the will of man through the flesh, under Torah. But as Jesus said, Jesus came to his own, but his own refused him. But to those who believed in him, to those who accepted him, he gave them the right to become sons of God, who were born not of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. You see, what we're talking about here is two different approaches to sonship. In the age to come, under Messiah, under the new covenant, sons of God are born by faith. They are born of the will of God, not of the will of man. Under Torah, children of God were produced by the natural conjugal relations between a man and a woman married to one another for the purpose of raising up sons of God. Under Christ, children of God, let me see, you are all the children of God by faith, not through marriage. You are all the children of God by faith, for there's a connective particle that explains how that faith produced their sonship. For as many of us as were baptized into Christ put on Christ, where there is neither Jew nor Greek, bond or free, male or female. But if you are Christ, then you're Abraham's seed and heirs. Once again, under the old conjugal relationship, producing sons of God who were heirs. Under Christ, sonship by faith, being baptized into Christ, becoming the seed of Abraham and heirs. It's perfect. I hope you can see that in the age to come in which we live, in the new creation in which we live, there are sons of God, but not produced by the normal relationship of husband and wife. I develop all of that and more in my book, Marrying and Giving in Marriage in the New Creation. Go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com, and order the book. It will help you to understand this concept of this age, the age of Moses and the law, as the Jews viewed it, as Jesus viewed it, as the apostles viewed it, this age in which sons of God were produced through the flesh, versus the age to come in which sons of God are now produced by faith, being baptized into Christ to become Abraham's seed and heirs of the promises of God. What a beautiful, beautiful picture. And we've got more on the new creation of Isaiah chapter 65, showing, folks, it's here. We're in it. It's covenantal. It's not physical. We'll see you on the flip side.